with קדמות העולם. Okay, to explain this concept, it actually starts from much earlier. It starts from much earlier. It starts from Perek Yud Gimel. I will give you a bit of a rundown of something. I bought this Perek for something in particular, which follows that which we discussed last time we learned. To what extent is the world that way you know it a created form or always was, etc.? So basically, Rambam brings down in the second volume of the 13th chapter that there are many views of whether the world, the antiquated world, was it always or is it a created form? Before we go into what Judaism believes in, you have two major schools of thought that's not found here. This is in Perek Yud Gimel, between what we call the classic approach, which was very much Plato, and then also you would have the Aristotelian approach. Okay, let's just say with the two, in very broad layman language, what we're talking about. The common approach was there was always, as much as there's a God, quote unquote, yeah, they all believed in a God, okay, as much as there's a God, there's some kind of primary matter. They had a problem believing that you can, that magic can come from naught. Everybody did. Believe me, and any logical person does. How can matter come from naught? Because if we believe in a logical reality, therefore logic by definition means that there's a proportionate relationship between the cause and an effect. And there's no bigger abyss between yesh and ayin. It's very not proportionate, to say the least. Okay, it's much more awkward to say that there was a not and now there is. It's a yesh, there's matter versus there was not at all, than to say that this freezing room created major temperatures of 130 degrees. That would be an illogical sentence, right? Because we're talking about a source of cold and you're describing a symptom or a teitzah of heat, which doesn't add up, okay? That's what you call illogical statements, okay? For to say that the ayin is a siba of yesh, or he'd say more so if you believe there's a God, not defined by any, he's an infinite God, then infinite God is a source of finite reality, was a major dilemma for the world of thought. They would have they had a hard time believing that creation, existence by definition is irrational, is illogical. That's what they couldn't bite. That is the act of faith. Any logical thinker wouldn't say it. He'd have a problem because you're defying logic. And they're taking for granted that logic is supreme and always was. It is something which we don't defy, we don't walk out of. For the Jew simply believes that no, that you're right, it's an act of faith, it's an illogical phenomenon. Why? Because they believe that even logic is a certain form which was created, and therefore, hypothetically, that which preceded that form of logic is beyond logic, that not defined by logic. So you're right, it's illogical, but who cares? It's only within the world of logic that we expect things to follow a logical form, but that which precedes logic, is by definition not logical. Okay, that's something which is easy to say if you somehow believe you have in Messiah, etc., there is a creation, there was an infinite God, and He is the reason of a finite reality. Is it possible? Yes. Because by definition of Him being infinite, there's nothing that defies His possibilities. But is it logical? No. So I agree, it's very illogical. That's why I always laugh when people say, well, what's the logical reason for creating the worlds? As goodness says, creation is illogical. Why would you look for a logical reason for doing something illogical? If you think of it. But once again, but you probably didn't get that far. So, but that's Judaism, okay? But if you talk the world without that, it was looking for something that had to be logical. And therefore, for example, so the classic approach prior to Aristotle was, yes, as much as there is a God, there was also a basic finite matter. It always was. God is the reason for that matter, but as much as whatever, God doesn't have a reason, but God and the matter were always there. It's just that you're not asking what's the reason of God, so don't ask the reason for the matter. It's a matter together with God. It's not the same level of God. It's a secondary reality, but it's not like there's two gods. I don't want to say that, because if you say that, they didn't have to believe in that. No, there's a God and there's matter. Everything that happened afterwards is nothing more than forming that matter. But the matter itself was always there. Therefore, it's very easy, because once again, so you can't say how could infinity create finite. No, finite was always there. That was the way of answering the question. Finite was always there. How is it possible? No question. I don't know. How is it possible for there to be an infinite God? Somehow that question they weren't bothered with, because they're not asking that. They're only asking it if there is a reality. It's got to work logically. Granted, if it comes from a source, so it has to be logical. It doesn't have a source. It always was. Now Judaism, no, it doesn't have a source.
Doesn't that limit God?
What?
Doesn't that limit the infinite God?
I fail to understand why you say what you just said. As long as it's not the level of God, so do you limit God by your being? So somehow, however your answer is going to be, that your existence does not limit God. So the same thing that matter. Why don't you ask the fact if you're alive, aren't you limiting God? Well, you can say the same thing with that matter. You can define that also can. That's very simplistically answered. We're going to leave it at that. Whatever answer you're going to give for yourself, you'll give for that. We'll leave it at that. Now, these are not questions which are overwhelming in any fashion, form, or size. Okay, they can exist at plane X and not at plane Y. You can call it the expression. There are multiple answers to that. I'm going to chalk it up together with that. Leave it at the moment. I'm not learning the sugya now, okay? With greatest respect. So basically, this was a common approach. The truth of the matter is that Judaism is not far from it. The only difference is we believe that primary matter is also created yesh mi'ayin. And that's what the Greeks called that first matter heulic matter. It means they had no form. It was pure matter, okay? And pure matter always was. And as much as there's God, there's that. We'll leave it at that. We didn't have to make it from ayin liyesh. No, it always was, period. Elamai, what are you going to say? Afterwards, what did we do? Afterwards, he formed that thing, forms into different forms. And therefore, actually, that matter never goes back to naught, because it never started from naught. That matter will lose form and go to different forms, just like we today have, that solids turn to gases, into liquids. So this will also move into different forms. It will never go back to naught, because it was never naught to begin with. This is the basic approach. Now, where's Judaism far from that? Only one nakuda. That we believe that the first day of Sheish Bereshis, there was an infinite God, there was nothing. And then God created this primary matter. And that's what the Ramban writes in the beginning of Bereshis. That's what Bereshis, Bar Elokim Shemayim V'Aretz, literally means. In the very beginning of creation, the first day of creation, he created two primary matters. One is called Shemayim, which means the primary matter from which he formed all transcendent realities. It's really cool, because you don't even know what a transcendent reality yet, but there's a matter which it's a form of. Okay? And also, that's called Shamayim. And Aretz means to say that primary matter from which afterwards he formed all tangible realities, all the reality that you experience. Whatever it only be, whatever you define as Shamayim and Aretz, this is going to depend, literally, probably develop with the years. But at the end of the day, this is what the Ramban writes. So the Ramban clearly writes that Yesh Ma'ayin only happened on the first day of Bria. Afterwards, it wasn't Yesh Ma'ayin, it was nothing more than forms. He took his cookie cutter and he started going into the dough and making different things. That's what he did. And the cookie, it's not just a cookie cutter, making it different forms created different properties. Just you condense the energy in one way or another, it created different properties. And this is called an animal, this is called grass, this is called a tree, this is called a star, whatever they are. Okay, so they're all, this is the Ramban in the very beginning of Bereshis. That's what it means. Bereshis, Bar Elokim, Shamayim, V'Aretz. The Ramban says Gebora means Yesh Mi'ayin. So Yesh Mi'ayin only happened on the first day. Afterwards, Vayem Yehi is giving form to that primary matter. He describes this. He calls it Zemash HaYevanim Kayim Chaymer Hiyulian matter. That's what the pasuk says. V'Aretz Haishis Tayev Avayu. What does that mean? primary matter had no form. Therefore, it's tohu v'vayu. Tohu means it's chaotic. Basically, it has potential for everything, and there's nothing there. Now, what is that exactly? We don't know what that is. In all truth, we don't know that to be true. In science, we can't do. We have no clue of saying that. The reason, what happens here is something really very interesting. Is that that the reason the Ramban is saying that because it says bara shemayim va'aretz. That's the bara for him means yesh mi'ayin, okay? And afterwards it doesn't say bara anymore, okay? And he understands that this is the way he takes. Okay, I'm just giving basically Rosh Prakim. Maybe you should learn the Ramban, the first Ramban in Bereshis. So the difference between that approach and ours is very small. The only question is, do you take the psukim kipshutai and say bora they created primary matter? It really means to say the shemayim v'aretz doesn't mean the primary matter. It can mean like many other rishonim in the psukim. It means taka the shemayim v'aretz and all the rest is just describing what the pratim are. Bereshis, in the beginning of this whole story of the epic, God created heaven and earth the way you and me know it. Then it is Vayemer, Elokim, etc. are describing how this was made. So this was like a caption. That's one of the possible ways of reading the pasuk. According to that, Bereshis, Elokim, Shemayim v'aretz, that's not a mimer of Bria. That's some of the milsa. There's Teisha Maimoros of Yehi, and Bereshis nothing more than the topic on top. Doesn't fit with a Mishnah. Granted, okay, doesn't fit with the Mishnah. We can know. If you need to, this is also a possibility. So at the end of the day, what are we based on? We're basically based only on one thing, and a certain havana of the psukim, based on Masoras Chazal v'Sar Mamoros Nivra Olam. Granted, that's based on. And that's why we take for granted there was this reality. And we read the psukim kipshutam. It says Vayemer Yehi, Vayemer Yehi. If we take for granted Bereshis bara Elokim meant creating primary matter, like the Ramban, so that's pshutai. But even the Ramban doesn't think that the only way Pshat himself brings all the pshatim in the psukim. So all I know definitely from the psukim that God said, "Let there be this, let there be this." Could be nothing more than let there be form, which is what the Ramban himself says. Let there be form. But now, so do we really have an open pasuk that he created yesh mi'ayin? You have the Messiahs of the Mishnayos of the Rebbe Seina Tanoim that tell us this is Kaki Bal Sinai. That what Basar Mamoros Nivra Olam Bereshis Tamim Maimeru. That means it's a mimer of it's a mimer of Bria. It's not just a some kind of a head topic, a headliner on top, and afterwards you tell us how the story happened. No, because normally you could have read it in the beginning of history. First of all, God created the world. That's how it starts, and then you have until Sheni saying how God created the world and how Adam got, and then all of a sudden from Sheni and Fizz. And Ela told us. Now let me tell you the story that once the earth gets put up, this is what happened in it, and this is how you start saying it. So if you look at the Psukim Gibshu, the Bereshis, in the very beginning, first of all, there was an idea of creation. Ela told the Shemayim v'aretz is after Sheni. Now let me tell you the history that happened. Okay, this was the stage. Now the story unfolds. We start talking about man, etc., and whatever happened. That's the chayra, the pshuta shemikra, the psukim, right? So you don't know pshuta shemikra psukim doesn't say the bereshis time and maimeru. Bereshis is nothing more than the koteret. The maimer is what it says. It's Chazal which says that bereshis time and maimeru, and there's a chiddush there. Maimeru afabi doesn't say vayomer yehi. So what does Rashi say? Well, how else would he do it? Ulai zapshat b'mishnah. I mean, how else do we do the akasha of HaKadosh Baruch Hu? So why tax it? It doesn't have to say, because what else would he? Where else would it be? That's the Rashi says. No. Mani achol agid. If it wouldn't be Rashi, I know what I would say. But it's Shitas Rashi. Rashi's G'dor Rebbeinu Rishonim. But doesn't mean to say the other Rishonim agree with him. I'm just brought you other possibilities. Look at the Ramban. Look at the Radak. Look at you'll see other Pirushim in this. What does it mean? Bereshis not mean Maimer. So the Moshe in Chassidus day for Tachi was Maimer HaMachshava, not Maimer HaDibur. And there's a whole Maimer of the Tzemach Tzaddik on this to explain. Yeah, it was a Maimer, it was a Dibur, just a Yomer of Habam Beliboy, the concept of Dibur Belev versus Dibur Bepeh. So Bereshis, the first Maimer was a Maimer b'Machshava, not a Maimer b'Dibur. Because it doesn't say Vayomer Yehi. So Tzemach Tzedek is working. It's not just the Tzemach Tzedek. It's called it works with Pshutish. It's working with the Mikra, not running away from Chazal, but trying to reconcile Chazal with the Mikra. It doesn't say Vayomer Yehi, and they don't accept the stum of the Muslim. What else would it be that's found in Rashi? No, Sakya Maimer. How do I know? Because Chazal say so. And that's more than enough for me, okay? I in Pasuk state this desire, so what are you going to say? That the Messiah is Oikar the Pasuk? No, the Messiah is Fatach the Pasuk. Then what? It means a Maimer, but just like B'yemer B'liboy. What's the difference between a Dibur, a Pev, a Dibur, B'liboy? Believe me. Well, first of all, you would have to find what the word Dibur Kodesh means exactly. It doesn't mean speaking, because there was no air or oxygen to vibrate, so there were no noises. So what does it mean he was speaking? You have to conceptualize the idea. God spoke. What does it mean? He obviously doesn't have vocal cords. He doesn't give out sounds. He doesn't have, oishis poof or whatever it only be, or oishis groinios. That's not, it obviously means something. Now, this is not the place to explain it, but you should be thinking about this. So whatever you understand a mimer is, understand there's a mimer of Dibur and there's a mimer of Machshava. Okay, in a small nutshell, I can say what it is, just in a remes katan. When I think things in my mind, they're exactly the way I mean them. Because in my mind, I'm my own audience. In my mind, so it's whatever cultural baggage I have, which means in these words, I don't have to explain it, thank God. I know exactly what I mean, and what I'm saying, and what I'm thinking is what I'm thinking, and that's not, it's pure. As soon as I open my mouth, I have 25 opinions of what I meant. What did I do? I gave it freedom of being interpreted by the world around me, and therefore God knows what was said there. So Oishis HaMachshava means to say something which is a bria, which is not shaykh to, that's an absolute reality, not open to it's beyond comprehension. It's God with himself. And there's another concept of Oishis HaDibur, which God invites duality. Now you go and interpret me. So you have to understand. Now, the Rebbe describes a big mimer about this and explains this. You want to know where it is? There's a book called Derech in the back. There's a mimer called Dibra Masav V'ulam Chai Oni. In the first two prakim where he talks about that. You can look it up. Okay, if you want. It's in the back of Derech Mitzvah. But this is very fine and vile. This is out Yiddishkeit, okay? But the Pshuta Shemikra doesn't suck it. So if you ask me, could you hypothetically live with Aristotle? You could. You could. It's not the Pshuta Shemikra. It's definitely doesn't work with Chazal, but it's doable. There's another Kadmos Ha'olam, which is the Kadmos of Aristotle, which is something totally different. That Sivyan Ha'olam, the world the way we know it always was. That already means to say that since it always was and wasn't created a form, therefore logically, just like God always was, and therefore he can't change, he doesn't believe that God can therefore will or change or anything, because his change is only in Chaymer, in some things which are formed, in matter. Things which are prior to matter, he doesn't understand what the word change means. So he thinks he thinks can't change. Everything is programmed, therefore it defies the concept of miracles. Now the truth of the matter is that also wouldn't be that bad, because if you understand that miracles are programmed from the very beginning, it was programmed that way, so it's really cool. But they couldn't say that would only make sense but if there's no creator, that you couldn't possibly say these miracles would be dependent on human behavior. Because it preceded humanity. So that couldn't make sense unless you believed in an intelligent designer which created that. Well, he's saying no, there always was. So if you believe the pshat is that there's a matter, but afterwards the form was created by an intelligent designer, so the intelligent designer created the form, dependent on certain conditions, certain realities. You can believe in miracles, you can believe in accountability, you can believe that rain comes because of mitzvahs, you can do them, you can actually be religious. There's really no problem. You don't need yesh me'ayin to believe in Yisodus Hadas. That's the honest truth. But you can't. But to be an Aristotelian, to believe that the world v'tzivyoynei always was, never, it's not oimid l'shinui. That's it's against all Yisodus Hadas. And this is basically what the Rama writes here. So now I want you to see what it says over here in Perik Chafei. That's enough to understand this Perik. So this is da she'ein brichatena. I'm using my translation. Milizbor kadmut ha'olam machmat ha'katuv asher ne'amar b'Torah she'olam mechudash. I'm not running away from this because of psukim. This is a classical Rambam. לפי שאין הפסוקים מורים על חידוש העולם יותר מן הפסוקים המורים על היות על הגוף. If we're going to look at everything literal, that means God also has a nose and a feet and a stomach. And somehow we've proven the previous parts of this sefer to believe that is kfira. Ad kidei kach, the Rambam brings it in Yad Chazaka, and that's the famous Riva that said, but there were great people of this nation which did think that he had feet and hands. Hakshama, does God have form or doesn't God have form? It's a big machlekes. The Rambam writes, whoever believes this is a kaifer. The Riva writes, Doilim v'toivim heimenu. Heimenu means from the Jews. Okay, from the nation. It doesn't mean better than him. A lot of people just misread that Rambam. Better than you. That's such a childish approach. Okay, good people of this Jewish nation believe that. How can you call them Apikoros? The famous Reb Chaim on this, that he believes that the Rambam holds Nebuchim Apikoros is also not Apikoros. It's a cute Reb Chaim. The emissary of the Rambam explains himself in Mora Navukhin. He says you're Apikoros because although you're right, the Deus are Meshubashas, but since the alternative of thinking carefully and philosophically training and listening to people who thought research would have brought you to another conclusion, and you were lazy not to do it, that's your Apikoros. We don't have a tinnik shenishba if you were too lazy to look. If the information was accessible to you, you didn't look at, you're not a tinnik shenishba. Then you're in bad place. If Taki, you had no eitzah, you saw the psukim, there was nothing around to help you to change it possible, then there's nothing you could do, so you're not called in Apikoros. In other words, there's a poster of Chaim that thinks the Shitz Rambam is a Nebuch Apikoros, Apikoros B'shoig is also Apikoros. It's wrong because the Rambam himself explains himself. Rambam writes in Navukhin, he's saying this because the information is open to everybody today. All you do is read Targum Onkelos and you see how he runs away from Hakshama, and there you have already Mishnah Satanoim. What are you doing? How could you possibly, person living after Mishnah Satanoim, to believe Ba'amin Hakshama if you have Onkelos in front of you? He writes this. So that to be minded by Hakshama today is basically to stick your head into the sand and not look what's around you. And therefore, you don't believe. It's like people today will not, I accept this doctrine, I don't want to know about X, Y, and Z. Mishnah Ramban, the Riva said, I don't want to know about it. I don't want to learn my Maharidis. The Rambam himself will tell you you're a fool. And if you make a mistake, you'll also be begetter Nebuch, v'chulu. Okay, that's something which is the same thing. That's the Rambam's day. I just want to know the emes. So I say this because it's commonly known that Nebuch not because is also not because. The Rambam himself addresses this and says it differently. Once I already said that many people say Pshat and Rambam without learning what the Rambam says about himself. I'll show it to you. It's a Mora Navukhin. Now, this moment, I'm sorry. At home, it's like every other page is turned so I can find it. This is like new and nice. Okay, but that's the Rambam's before Sharam. Okay, but whatever it is, so why don't we accept, so he says, I want you to know, I'm running away from Platonian ideas of Kansa Olam simply not because of Psukim, because as far as Psukim is concerned, if I would just read the Psukim literally, I would stop believing the guy has a nose and a hand. And since we've proven, for whatever the proofs are, you can go previously in Perik Aleph Chelik Beis, where he discusses that by Archava. He touches it a bit in the Yad, but Be'ikr is over here in Chelik Beis, where he's saying that definitely God does not have form, and this he proves philosophically, whatever, at least according to him, what's called a philosophical proof. So therefore, Al Koch, that's the reason I'm going to read the Psukim the way they are. I'm not running away for the Psukim. The Psukim say X. I know how to read Psukim in a way that they're metaphoric. And that's what he does. And that's why he brings in the idea of Dibur Torah Koloshim Ne'adam. That's what he wrote in the very beginning when we first learned this. The Torah writes language that the average Girgashi idiot will be able to somehow comprehend God. Right? The average farmer in Canaan, that's Dibur Torah Koloshim Ne'adam, means the local illiterate. V'chulu. Okay? That's what the Rambam writes in the Agdam. We learned this in the very beginning. So he says, V'gam ein darki habir ne'ulim b'fanenu. The capabilities of explaining psukim, they've not been closed. There's always ways of dealing with psukim. Nothing stops us from explaining the psukim in a way that we have to say dafka chidush ha'olam. No, it could be as far as that's in kadmos ha'olam. Just as the psukim, which sound like this mamash hakshama, we know how to kick it into metaphor. We know, the Rambam knows how to do that. Your mainstream Judaism does not believe in Hakshama. Right? And he says, Yamincha shenadoi b'koich, Yamincha em teretz oyev. Somehow you're already trained to understand Yamin doesn't mean the right hand. It's a metaphor to some kind of a, okay, let's use the word sphira, okay, or what expression, call it whatever word you have, it's bechina. Okay, it's a bechinas Yamin. That's what it means, whatever that means. You're just trained to that. That's your natural knee-jerk reaction. And believe me, centuries without the Rambam, you would not have had that. The world Judaism was a big thank you to the Rambam. He knocked it. Because of him, we all see that naturally. You should know, beforehand, it wasn't Pashit. You see what the Ravid says, as I mentioned before. Rav told us the Rambam that he was Tashit, was Oike from us, the Musig of Akshama Velakus. Okay, Mamish. Okay, beforehand, were you kidding? Goes back and forth. The same thing he can do with Reishis Bo Elokim Shemaim Swords. So he says that would be easy. This would actually be easier. What I did in the Psukim of Akshama is harder than what I would have done here if I felt it was necessary. That's what he writes. We had no problem. We had great potential of explaining these Psukim in different forms. That's what he writes. And we'd be able to sustain the idea that it didn't have to be a yesh mi'ayin. It could have been yesh kayam, and everything else is nothing more than form of that yesh kayam. I could say that too. Just as we extend previous psukim, guf. So he opens the conversation, saying, don't talk to me because of psukim. Because if I just talked to you to the psukim, your Judaism would not be what you have it today. You would all be Maimonim Bakshama. That's the truth. And if we're going to talk about midrashim, soon we're going to look in the next paragraph. There's things there which mamish sound that there's a chaymer kadmon. If you're going to read midrashim, also midrash chazal, the next paragraph you'll see it starts. It says mamish. Now where did God take it from? Oh, he basically had this primary matter. He took it and he stretched it and made out of that rakia. It's a picture of Rebbe Lazar. He took the towel of the snow under the kisya covered and made from that something. What is snow? There's matter there. It says, the Gemara says, the Medrash says, where did he make this from? From here. It sounds like this primary matter. You should know. I mean, and we know how to, you people don't learn these things. If you'd learn it, you'd understand. You're kicking it into metaphor. Why? Because of certain beliefs. Your question is, why do you have to believe in that? So he says, I did not do this because of the psukim itself. So why didn't we kick this into metaphor? V'lon is barkain, and we will not accept the doctrine of Kadmos Ha'olam. Both. There's two reasons. This is a very important parak. It teaches you 1 minute. You have to evaluate what you believe in. What's the reason you're believing this? Again, you're not trained because you don't ask these questions. You know, maybe it's healthier that way. But at the end of the day, this is what he says. So what does he say? The fact that God doesn't have form isn't proven. This we have at the beginning of this shah. That's no problem. But since this is proven, now we have there are questions to be asked. Since there are things which seem to be standing against that pshat, that you've proven, and that are psukim or other ideas, and you have to really deal with them. So the axiom is, this is the truth because this has been proven from X, Y, and Z. Now that this is a given which has been proven, then I have to deal with all those things which seem to be opposing this truth, and since we're going to do so, and we must let people know, there's a possibility of explaining these things. But it didn't start that I was going to say lav dafka in a pasuk and kick it them. If it started because this hanach is muchach from wherever it's muchach. Once it's muchach, now I have to deal with the psukim because you can't say it's muchach emes and the pasuk says the opposite. So you have to, if this is the truth, you have to have a way of reading the psukim in a way which will fit with that truth. So that's what he writes. But in truth, nothing has been proved. It's all speculation. All ideas of Kadmos Ha'olam are nothing more than speculation. I'll give you the example. The speculation based on the fact they can't fathom the idea that there's something with pre-logic. You can't prove that there's nothing pre-logic. It's just not within the frame of thinking. Definitely didn't fit in the world of thought at that time when logic was supreme. The idea that there's an infinity, therefore expresses itself into finite form, is an illogical phenomenon. They did not, they celebrated logic. I can talk about the psychological reasons for it, but I'm not going to do that here because it's not fair. But it definitely is very unique. It's very Greek, obviously, because beforehand the world celebrated chaos. They didn't even want to know about Adra, but if you look at the different remedies that people had for solving issues that had nothing to do with logical thinking, okay? Like today you have sgulos. Okay, people love sgulos. You say this, no. Oh, you know what, don't sit in the corner, break a mirror, knock on wood. I don't know all the different Hungarian minhagim over there. You know what I mean? Whether they come from Christianity or from some gypsy, it doesn't matter to me. At the end of the day, people love living without logic. People today forget, you know, what's the problem? You want to be religious? Give X amount of money to Kupa Seir and you'll be religious. What's the problem? You know what I mean? Say 7 Hail Marys and it happens. You know, I mean, this is very nice. Okay, it's okay with me. People do. We discussed this. I learned with somebody this, a letter in the Balatanya, where the Rebbe writes, it's a terrible thing that people come to people to ask questions in Gashmis. What am I, a prophet? He says, for the prophet, you lost your donkey, so you went to Shmuel to find your donkey. He was the lost and found. To me, how would I know? I'm not a Navi. What are you coming to me for? What am I going to tell you? Garnished, I don't know anything. Don't bother me. You come to me, ask questions, Adrachi and Ruchnius, in Avodah Hashem. This I can answer. That's what he writes. But today it's not that way, right? You go to the Nariya to find out whether you have to buy a blue sofa or a green sofa. Okay? That's what they do, right? They go, I have a guy lives in Lawrence. Mama, she comes with his private plane just to go to Rabbi David. You understand this guy? I don't want to talk about. You know, Lazap, okay? But, you know, he goes, he has major business issues. I'd say his name, you'd probably know who it was. You know what I mean? They can't because of all this paraphernalia here. You know, he goes, he asks all these weird questions. And, you know, your David's a nice guy. What's he going to tell him? You know, and so he doesn't do this, do that, do this, do that. But this guy actually thinks it's the Oracle of Delphi, and God is speaking through that. It's as true as the Oracle of Delphi, you understand? Okay, I want you to understand. It's his emes is the Oracle of Delphi. Auto suggestion, he therefore feels good about himself, very good, so he got himself a cheap psychologist. Okay, but Lamaisa, that's what the Rebbe writes in Tanya. He says, what are you bothering me? I'm not a prophet. This is only for prophets. Anybody who's not a prophet, he doesn't know what's going to happen in Gashmis. Don't bother me. My door, Rabbi Laraisa. So, no, you know, I suggest you determine mitzvahs not because of Chaim Kanevsky said so, and don't learn Chofetz Chaim because of Rabbi Segel said that if you learn 2 programs of Chofetz Chaim a day, you'll find Yeshuas. Somehow you only do mitzvahs because of Yeshuas. That's how it seems to be. You should learn Chofetz Chaim not because it gives you Yeshua, because it saves you from hell. Because you're not Lashon Hara. You should learn Torah v'shteit v'shinanton v'nechudi b'ar tabam. You should put on film v'shteit v'posim. You should give tzedakah because it's the right thing to do. It's a mitzvah sadam, and that's so. That's why people should be doing things, not because there's these flashy things. Do this and be saved. It sounds like Billy Graham. I don't know how to tell it to you. You know what that is? He was a major evangelist. Okay, yeah, you know what I mean. This is a. I don't want to say what it is. It definitely has nothing to do with Judaism. That's I can say. It's not even pseudo-Judaism. It's literally another religion. This has nothing to do with that. Hanhaga is not Judaism. Okay, please remember that. Very important. So one has to understand. We have to live with logic, and since logic, there's no heichacha for kadmos. There's a heichacha for the Kodesh Baruch Hu. It doesn't have a guf, and you have to learn the heichachas. And based on that, I do the psukim. Mashenk and kadmos was not muchach. It's not muchach. And then he continues and says, "L'chein en ra'ui lidchot et haksuvim ulevaram lefi achrat hashkofa asher efshar la'achriya epcha besugi achar rabim." Just because it's possible, it's an option, it looks nice, it sounds nice, it's a maybe, it's a l'chayra, it answers questions, all the other things, doesn't garnished. You don't fadrei psukim because of that. You keep the text the way it is until you know it has to be played with. That's a yesod gadol. You don't change. You don't. I just experienced it this week. You don't play with the text until you have no option. Okay? Once you have no option, it can't be X, so then you got to read it differently. That's what the Rambam is telling you here. But as long as there's an option, is whatever it's going to be, brother dear, then you're going to read the text the way it is. Don't change the text because of a svara, which is cute and nice, and a maybe, because, you know, so what? That's what he writes. לכן אין ראוי לדחות את הכסובים ולבערם למען הכרעת השקפה אשר אפשר להכריע הפכה בסוגיה אחרי רבים. But you're going to be machriya according to certain hashkafa and therefore play with the psukim. But you can also undo that hashkafa. There's kashis on everything. Nothing's mukhrach. So that's why the Rambam did not accept kadmos ha'olam. Not because of the psukim, because there's no reason to walk away from the pshuto shemikra, the psukim. We don't kick them into bechinas unless we have to. And have to means with logic. Very important hanacha here. Logic doesn't mean layman's logic. It means the logic of a philosophical, of a student of religion, of philosophy, of the caliber of the Rambam, which has the weight of knowledge and scope and depth to be able to say, this is mukhrach. When a guy tells me a little, you know, he did his BA in philosophy, he read a shtickle Wittgenstein over there, or whatever he read there in YU. Yeah, what is, you know, buy, you know, try Beluga bubble gum. That's what you're going to buy. Well, Haksmer China, you know what you're talking about. When the guy says, like, the veneer on his diet, he said, I don't say, if your das is on you should keep your mouth shut. Veneer on his diet, you loymar, the chastir minei ubei. If your das is on you shouldn't be a loymar there. Versteinish. If you're mocking the emes that you don't know what your brain is pretty poor, so why are you saying anything? Keep your mouth shut. It's a mitzvah g'dayla liyas b'shtika. You know, that I know about the simcha thing. This is about Taisa, but the b'shtika is a mishnah. Mila b'selah, shtika betray. That's veisich. Siag l'chachma shtika. These are mishnayos. This is chazal. Okay? So that's number one. Hasiba ashniya kisfarasenu she'enu laha guf eno soser lanu ma'umam yisoyis adas. When I say that I deduce, not I, Rambam deduces, that God does not have form, this does not undo any of the principles of our religion. There's no navi which is mukhish because of that. It's only something which fools think. The fool thinks it's against the pasuk, so I'm going to explain it's not against the pasuk. But there's no inherent tainah. If you say that God doesn't have a guf, it's a stira to you say the sadas. You don't think it fits the pshuto shem mikra. It's good to zamer meichel. So if you have das, so you know how to read a mikra, you put it together, you answer the mikros. He says, "Ve'eno machish divrei shum navi." That's like the navi said before she has a guf. Ve'eno again, eno machish shum navi. ואין בו אלא מה שבדם מסחולים שיש בכך נגד הכוסף ואין נגדו כמו שביארנו. אלו כוונס הכוסף. But that's what the pasuk means, not the way you think it means. Because I said before, pshuto shemikra is something we can deal with. I talk about this because I talk about midrashim. Many times people come and tell me ashkaf is from midrashim. Now, for goodness sakes, first of all, everybody has to get used to the idea that midrashim were written by hundreds of people. First, not every medrash is something went through the dairas. The midrashim, which were obscure, who came later, Psikta, Yalkut Riveni, etc. There are many things we don't even know where their sources are from. They're old. But how do you know what the weight of it is as far as, is this a Tana, is this an Amoira? Where is it from? It's an anonymous medrash. Every medrash is the same dalbas. You know, the Ramban didn't know about Yalkut Riveni. It came later. So you have to ask the question of the weight of that medrash, number one. Number two, for goodness sakes, anonymous midrashim, they were not written by one author. These likutim are likutim of different darshanim. And if you're going to take for granted their tanoim, so what's the shayla? This Tana says X, Tana says Y, Tana says A, B, C, and D. Who says they have to agree? And when I hear these ideas, how am I yashav the steer between two midrashim? I think gavra karamis. What are you doing? I don't understand what you're doing. When there's a name of a medrash, it says Amar Rabbi Akiva, then I'll go through all the shas, Bavli Yerushalmi, Sifras from Mechilta, and the rabbis and Tanchums. What das Rabbi Akiva in this Nasai? That you have a steer in Rabbi Akiva. But how are you going to ask Rabbi Akiva on Levi? What are you doing here? It's like almost, it's pathetic. It's begetter a bizayon. I hate to say it, but this is common practice. It's common practice that people take midrashim as a bulk, some kind of a canonized text, which therefore everything has to fit with everything, and therefore mamela, whatever speeches are said, they're said. Okay? But this is Gavra Karamis. How do you know that? You can't even ask from a stomach the sugya to a stomach the sugya. You can see you try to be miyashiv. That's nicha because Ravina Ravashi did it. But there's no. How many times do we find that the machlekes are sugyas? The chaser kazeh davar. It's full of shas. The machlekes are sugyas. The stomach the sugya X, stomach the sugya Y. What do you want here? I can show you one between Daf Tes and Daf Yod Aleph if you want. In Gittin. Taisa didn't chop that, but Rashi did. Okay, whatever it only be, was willst du? So it's so interesting how people take things like a canonized text and they take credit. How can you go no? How can you hashkafa from that? How can you know? More than that, because it's soft material as opposed to Talmudic thought, it's very hard material. So unless you've been conditioned not to care about the text, then it becomes a soft material. It reflects your bellyache. And whatever bellyache you have, that's what you're going to see, and you will somehow inject it into the text. Because you think the Gemara is a eulic matter, and you're the person that's going to make it form. Okay, the problem is it's not a eulic matter. There's the people that said things, and they know what they said. The question is, are you saying, is that the intent of this person, or is the intent of the text, or is not the intent of the text? So there, it's a very hard matter. The text has to carry this. And since the text can be proven with so many parallels, you really have a hard time. It can be mighty divitorial divrei. There's no problem. It's minig b'chol yom. But you know what? But you can see it. Anybody that has an eye says, yeah, this is sheker. That's not emes. Goodbye. But when it comes to divrei Agoda, what are you going to do? When it comes to divrei Agoda, unless you have the total command of all the Midrash Chazal to understand the play between them, it will do nothing more than reflect what you are. You will see what you want to see. Believe me, whatever Weltanschauung you have, you'll find it in Divrei Agoda. You just have to look there and you'll make it. It's interesting to see how different authors on the Divrei Agoda, you can see Lahedya, there are very few of them which you can see there's a flow of different interpretations for different midrashim, which one doesn't connect with the other. The Maharsha is one of them. He's a true interpreter of Divrei Agoda in a very interesting way. But when you come to talk to Marshall, without going names, okay, different Gedolei Olam of the Divrei Agoda, you can see this person had a few, like 6 major themes in his life, as I know his writings, and somehow every medrash or every Gemara in Agoda is either theme 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6. That's all there is. They're always there. What about other ideas? No, they won't become independent because he's caught in a certain way of thinking. Now, it's legitimate. But it's soft material, and it's reflecting what's in your mind. That's what you're seeing there. That's an interesting reality. That's how you start interpreting all different Agodas. I don't want to say names. Gedolei Olam, and I'm talking about the Maharsha is very special. Okay, the Gra, he's also very tight. But many others, the Maral, for example, is very clear. You read Ber Agoyla, he has X amount of Hanachas, and you see it everywhere. One of the Gdoish Elyon, Rav Kook, wrote 2 books on Agoda Ein Hayat, which is like probably one of the choshushest form in Agoda I know about, written in the last, 100-some years. Unbelievable, beyond, okay? Hitak was a more to call Terakula, Hitak knew, so he was capable, but he also has certain ideas, and you read Ein Hayat and Brachas and Shabbos, you see a lot of repetition of certain ideas always being seen, which is normal because it's soft material. It's soft material, therefore, although you're very, because you're Baruch Hashem, you knew Kol HaTerakula was a lam otzum, you know, a guy like that did 70 blot a day. You understand? You know, like Erev Pesach, he didn't have a problem making him see him a shas, you understand? You know, the guy did 70 blot a day. That's just in Gemara. I'm not talking about what he did in other Nitzayos Torah. You understand? We're talking about this, the Gavra Rabbah, you be shouting Raglecha, you know, the big boy, at least. But Afal Pikain, so he knew the whole material, but what did he see? He saw certain major themes. I can honestly tell you, the Balatanya, the same thing. You see, many times you'll see major themes. Rabbi Lister Schuller, one of the biggest Talmid of the Balatanya. You can hear him constantly, he's talking over the same thing in every other chazal that he brings. It doesn't mean it's not true. It's one of the panim l'Torah, but that's what he saw because it's soft material. When it comes to Babakam B'Mitziva Basha, you can't use Chefze Gavra all day, man. Unless you're a little baby, you don't know what you're doing. You're not constricted by the text. So you can stick your chakiris wherever you want and do what you want with it, but that's then do it b'chus Torah. Okay, but that's a davar pashut. So I want you to understand that divrei Haggadah are rough. First of all, who's going to stand up and do this? It's not a davar pashut. You have to be a gaver which knows the whole mass of the material. I don't think there's anybody alive today which we can say that has that. Okay? So the best you're going to do is stand on the shoulders of people that did. So there are great people in Mechabim, which they understand what they're doing. They're based on Divrei Agra. So you want to say Bir Agra? That means you have to know all Kisvei Agra to understand what the Gra meant. You understand how it works? You want to do Ramchal, that means you have to know Kol Divrei Ramchal. You want to learn Rav Kook, you really have to know this whole language of the Arbach Shem people, which have a total command of the literature the man writes, so they have an understanding of his language and his thinking. They can tell me Pshat and Einayah. When I go to Tzvi Tau, I tell you, I can trust him that he knows what's written over there. When it goes to John, Dick, and Harry, I look and say, oh yeah, what else is new? You understand? Depends who you're talking about. So you have to understand, just like in halacha. Halacha is easier because it's hard material. More than that, we have the people which tell us what it is. They're called Rajba, Ritzer, Ramban. It's very hard to walk away from them, okay? We don't have that in Divrei Haggadah. In Divrei Haggadah, to create ashkafis, you really have to be a gaver rabba b'yosef. An unbelievable gaver rabba. It's not kind of you really have to know a lot. And to be able to play it like kikadu, that's not the davar pashut. So you have to understand this. So the klal is, when he writes a word, asiba shnikis for asenu sheinu lekag guf einu seisalonu ma'umam yisoidus hadas ve'einu machish divrei shum novi ve'ein be'el mashem medam aschol m'sheish neged hakosav ve'einu neged mashem b'yana alu kavan hakosav avos first akadmus kifia oifen aniru la'aristo. That's something heavy. To accept kadmus according to Aristo, it means that the form was also always there, and therefore nothing is changeable. That, hu al derech hachiyuv v'lo yishtana teva klal, therefore according to him, no nature can possibly change. Ve'ein davar yotze minhagin, nothing changed from that which was originally programmed. If the Torah discusses accountability, and the Torah says, depends what you do, this is what's going to happen, etc., what's going to happen, or the moifsim of schar v'oinish, whatever we have, the nisim, the storm of v'hoyim, shmei tishmu, this is nista from Aristotle. See, that can't be. Umakish is called nisim behechlet. That's definitely against kfira. So why will he walk away from him? Because that's pashut. That we know is kfir, because it's pashut psukim in the Torah that there's A, B, C, and D. This is Yesod Hadas. So I have no problem. That's what I will run away from. Also, all the hopes, all the schar that we plan to get, the Torah promises. Or, for example, the ancient that God says will happen, it says it's impossible because these things, nothing changes. It's a normal course of events. It's a closed world of science, in other words. That they don't really happen is some kind of a bechina. There are people that did that in different religions, that they explain the different miracles of the Bible, not that it really happened, they were a bechina of it. You know what I mean? It is also a metaphor, okay? Once you kick everything into metaphor, you're willing to say you can live with Aristotle too. We can't kick that into metaphor because that's Misoidi Adas, it's called Schar V'Oinish, Hashgacha, etc. V'tiyah tetzua sugman hazayot, you end up having a living life of illusions. Avo'im yizbo adam et ha-kadmut lefi hashkafa shniya asher bi'arnu. But if a person will accept the theory of Kadmus, of what? Of Plato, and he won't believe that God was Yotzi Yesh Mi'ayin, but rather it was nothing more than Yesh Mi'yesh, the Chemer Hiyuli was always there and he formed. V'hi Ashkavas HaPlaton, v'hi Shigam HaShemayim, and if said it, but since it's basically, of course, things change, and even the basic concept of Shemayim, which is the Yuya matter, also deteriorates and changes form, as we described that before. Hare ein otash kafas soter yisodet adat. V'lo yimashech imena akhoshes anisim elef sharusam. Ve'efshar lever dem mikrois lepiyah. V'yimatzu le dimuyim rabim b'psuki atov v'zulasa. Sha'asher efshar litlolot ben v'al l'mod menu. You can really be a nice Jew and read that and believe in the simple Aplatonian Kadmus Olam. Aval. So why not? So now he has a question. So why don't we do it? Why don't we accept that? And the answer is, If this was proven, then I would be nidchik in the psukim. So what's he saying here? He says he doesn't have b'mesaira of B'riyas Yesh Mi'ayin. Why does he simply say, I have a mesaira, Mishinai, the B'riyas Yesh Mi'ayin. That's enough. He doesn't say that. He says, Li Tzri, that you would prove him to be true. I would say my only issue is a text. With the text, I'll know what to deal with. Even this basic concept of Kadmos Ha'olam does not, B'riyas Yesh Mi'ayin is not because some kind of a tradition alone. It's a tradition that comes from the text. That's what the Rambam writes. This is an unbelievable Rambam. One would have thought, what do you mean? This is the basic Bereshit Bara Elokim. This is how the Tanoim understood. How do you know what the Tanoim understood? If it's a Gemara, the Tanoim understood, say, I know. But you don't know it in the Gemara. There's nothing that says that you know that, because all the Lashonis there can also be metaphor. There's no Lashonis of Tanoim which distinctly ask the question, is it Yesh Mi'ayin or Yesh Mi'yesh? It comes in the Rishonim. Oh, yeah. Ramban, Rambam, Ran, yeah. So he says, Ein Chanami. What does he write? We have no reason to kick the psuk into metaphor. Only if this would really be proven. It was not proven. Lo ashkafazu nete eleh. We won't follow it. Or other ashkafas. We won't go there. Why not? Ela nikach es hamikros kipshutam. Big Yesod in Yiddishkeit. Okay? We don't play with the psukim unless there's no out. If there's no out, we don't say, that's the way it is. Okay? When we say no, then we try to explain the psukim in some kind of fashion that will work with which is muchach. This is the basic theme of the Sefer, isn't it what he says in the Akdama? That's a davar pasha. It's a very important Yesod here. In other words, for examples, if you tell me that we have, if hypothetically, one could prove, he's willing to say that the world was not even created yesh mi'ayin. If that could be proven, he would accept that. And what happens if you could be proven the world is X amount of billion years out due to certain fossils or whatever it be, or carbon dating, whatever it will be. If this would be a definitive proof, not because the world of science accepts it, because I've already pointed out why I don't think it can be a definitive proof. We discussed that already before. But if hypothetically it would be a definitive proof, what would the Rambam say? That's the truth. What do we do? The psukim, I'll explain. All of a sudden it'll become whatever it'll become. Then you're going to go to explain that Sheshis and Mebreshis means, the 6 spheres, like the Ramban offers the possibility, and it can be X amount of billion years. That's a possibility. But without that, the mikrosa kipshutam. This is what we have to understand. A very big yesod. You start your Judaism starts with the mikrosa kipshutam. When it's proven ayidei, some which is a gavra. I mean, not just every idiot that wrote an article like Dawkins, or some other halfwit, okay, which is simply it's not a crackatitis. Okay, the Rambam was right. They don't have crackatitis, they know what they're talking to. So, but if hypothetically, prove him, he's proved, not that the world of science accepts. We have a theology today, the world of science accepts. That doesn't say proof. That says the world of science is comfortable with a certain axiom. So it is, the proof. It's quite logical. Quite logical is a maybe. What did the Rambam write? Any maybes, don't walk away from the mikra. You know what the Rambam put down? Maybes don't work. So the fact that the world of science is comfortable with X, that's a maybe. I know what proof is. Proof is that math has proof, okay? There's proof. Whatever is proof, then the psukim will move. That's what the Rambam's shita is. Enough Geminas, I repeat again. Do you feel terrible about when you get... I enjoy going, every time I love going to see natural history museums. I love seeing it. For me, it shows godless habayra. I actually enjoy it, you know what I mean? And I never had a religious crisis by seeing fossils. Because of this Rambam. This Rambam basically tells you, what do you want? Relax, okay? But who says it's true? The question is proof. I don't know. I don't have to come to tell me stories that the Bible and this. I don't need that. I don't have to come and tell me that the world was created old in order to preserve the mikros. If hypothetically, I don't mind living with davar muchachim or logic, but if it's something which is illogical, so mistama, the pasuk has to be kicked into metaphor. But that's only if it's illogical to extend to a world of understanding, to create a reality that the world was created with hidden fossils for us to make mistakes. Maybe it was a letter written by a Gava Rabbi B'Yosef, which I respect enormously, but you know what I mean. I wouldn't use that svara for Taiche Rashba, to say the least, okay? So the criteria is very simple. I think where's the Rambam puts it in Hilchos Yisodei Torah. If you don't deal with these things until you know Avayis by V'Rava. Because Avayis by V'Rava are miyashiv v'samoyach v'salev. That's what he writes. After you finish Avayis by V'Rava and the Rezoich, the Yushiv, Amoyach v'Alev, then you should learn these things too. Big yesod for people going further in their education. I'm not sure they should be looking into things which would just drive them crazy if l'chayra they haven't been zoiche yet to Yishuv Amoich V'Alev. That's a very, and that's, I don't think that's a wise thing to do. At least in my mind, it doesn't either. I'm going to leave it at that. Let's go weiter. Again, Ela nikach samikos kipshuta v'neimer ki atoya hidia lana davar asher lo yagia kechenu l'asogasai. Yes, so there's something we don't understand. V'anisim meidim amitis. That's all. But that. Oh, I have to stop now because there's more than 5 minutes. Okay, we'll continue.